Donald Virgil Bluth, aka Don Bluth, a former Disney animator that found his own studio to create some of the most beloved animated films of all time, even being Disney at one point. I've talked about Don many times on this channel, as I reviewed 4 of his movies like An American Tail, The Land Before Time, Anastasia, and his greatest, The Secret of Nim. But for this episode of Complete History, we're looking at another of Don's work that isn't in movies, but in video games. That's right, we're looking at Dragon's Lair. It all began with an idea from the president of Advanced Microcomputer Systems, now known as RDI Video Systems, Rick Dyer. Inspired by the 1976 game Adventure, he created something called the Fantasy Machine, which will allow still images and narration thanks to Laserdisc technology. His game using the machine was The Secrets of the Lost Woods. Rick tried to market the game, but sadly no one had faith in Rick. It wasn't until he saw Don Bluth's Secret of Nim and realized that in order to get the game marketed, he needs some top quality animation, and so he got Don and his crew to be in charge of the animation. For the budget of the game, it was around $1.3 million. Because of this, they could only afford one voice actor, that being Michael Wright as the narrator. The rest were voiced by the crew working on the game, like sound engineer Don Molina as Dirk, animator Vera Lampert did Princess Daphne, and animator Dave Spafford did the Lizard King. Another budget problem was that they couldn't afford a live-action model for Daphne, so for inspiration for her beauty, they were inspired by, believe it or not, Playboy magazines! I am dead serious! And so in June of 1983, Dragon's Lair was released for arcades. The game follows Dirk the Daring, a brave but foolish knight who sets foot in the Dragon's Lair to rescue Princess Daphne from the clutches of the dragon. The game is an interactive film where you choose between either up, down, left, or right in sword to navigate Dirk through danger and monsters. The game was considered to be one of the most groundbreaking games of all time by featuring full motion videos and high quality audio as opposed to the usual sprites you've seen before in games. The games were such a huge hit when it was released, with everyone wanting to play this new game, with 1,000 machines being made and distributed. Dragon's Lair's success led to the game being turned into a side-scrolling game in 1990 on the NES, developed by Motive Time, published by CSG ImageSoft. Unfortunately, it was panned pretty badly. In 1984, Dragon's Lair got an animated series created by Ruby Spears Productions. It features many of the characters from the games, and new ones like Timothy, Dirk's Squire. The show ran for only 13 episodes. Dragon's Lair would even be released on future consoles like the Wii, PS3, iPhone, PSP, DS, Xbox Live Arcade, the Switch, etc., as well as DVD and Blu-rays. In fact, due to the success of Dragon's Lair, Don and Bluth and AMS would create a spiritual successor called Space Ace in 1984. I won't talk about it since this is not Dragon's Lair, but I can't say it wasn't as successful as Dragon's Lair. This was mainly due to being released after the great video game crash of 1983. If you wonder what it was, go look it up. Despite this, the team never gave up, as the team would get to work on the sequel to Dragon's Lair, Time Warp. In here, Daphne has been captured again, this time by the evil wizard Mordroc, and now Dirk must travel through several dimensions and times to save Daphne once again. The game featured the same quick time events as the first game, but features some new changes in the gameplay, like more linear adventure and the use of checkpoints, as well as the use of collected treasures. The game features tons of new characters like Daphne's mother and a new villain called Mordrake, who plots to force Daphne into marrying him. All was well when developing the game until something tragic happened. Cinematronics, the company that funded both Bluefloop, Dawn's video game studio, filed for bankruptcy due to the crash of 1983, which meant they could no longer fund any more of Dawn's games, and so Bluefloop shut down as well. Afterwards, Steven Spielberg would resurrect Bluefloop, and the company would later on go to make An American Tail and The Land Before Time. However, many crew members would continue working on Dragon's Lair 2, and the game would finally be released in arcades in 1990. Sadly, the game was unknown due to arcades being dated with the release of home consoles like the NES and the Genesis. Ports for the Sega Saturn, 3DO, and Philips CDI were planned, but were all scrapped, leaving the CDI only existed. The game would eventually see the light of day, being released for the DSi, the Wii, the PS3, and the Switch as part of Dragon's Lair's trilogy. In 1992, there was Dragon's Lair 3, The Curse of Mordred, for PC, and here Mordrake's sister Mordrake has kidnapped Daphne and traps Dirk's home in an orb, and now Dirk has to save the day. The game is similar to Time Warp, but features levels that were scrapped from Warp, like the pirate scene. In 2002, Dragon's Lair made its grand comeback with Dragon's Lair 3D, Return to the Lair, published by Ubisoft and released for PC, Xbox, GameCube, and the PS2 in Europe. The game is basically a 3D action adventure game in the vein of Zelda, where you control Dirk and travel through the lair fighting bad guys. The game featured cel-shading graphics as a way to look similar to the 2D animation of the previous games. Don Bluth even returned to create 2D animated cutscenes. Upon release, the game was released to mixed to positive reviews. In 2004, there was Dragon's Lair 3 for PC, which is basically a mix of both 1 and 2 and 3D. In 2003, there was a comic miniseries based on the games produced by MV Creations and CrossGen Entertainment. The comics were meant to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the game. In 2015, both Don Bluth and Gary Goldman had a crowdfunder in order to make Dragon's Lair a movie, which would have been a prequel of sorts and was been their first film since Titan AE in 2000. However, in 2020, it was decided to be a live-action film instead, with Ryan Reynolds as the lead, and Don Goldman and John Pomeroy as producers, and is set to be released on Netflix, but sadly, nothing came of it. As you can see, the first Dragon's Lair not only helped Don and his crew become more successful, but is considered to be one of the most popular and important video games of all time, a game that helped make arcades even more popular and paved the way for more games with video cutscenes. Tune in next time as we get out of the fantasy realm and into the sci-fi with these secret agents. See you later, buds. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.